Day 4 of the Banfield trial, and we saw expert witnesses, crime scene pictures. Vernon Miles has been covering this story since it began. And Vernon, what do you think about all the different experts that took the stand today?
Yeah, for the first 2 days, we saw some explosive testimony from the all pair at the center of this case. But today we learned more about some of the DNA evidence going into this, some of the crime scene stuff that was going on. Let's take a listen to some of that crime scene footage that we saw earlier.
That's going to be a photo from the bathroom back out into the main area of the bedroom, and that is Joe Ryan's body.
Was there blood anywhere else on Mr. Ryan's body that you observed?
There was blood on his face, hands. There was some on his clothes. There was some on his chest, arms.
What was in this pile of fabric that we see here?
It had 2 blankets, a sheet, and a towel.
Can you approximate here where Christine Banfield's body was found?
There would be the stain that you see on the right-hand side. That is the vicinity of her head.
Did you find a knife?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was the knife found?
The knife was found underneath the blankets, between the edge of the blankets and the bed.
Commonwealth's 114, is that the knife and the photograph that accompanied it to the lab?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you observe any weapons at the scene other than the knife?
It was Brendan Banfield's duty weapon.
Talk about the knife there and really who was holding it, Ray.
Right. We had a lot of conversations earlier in the courtroom about that, about who was holding what weapons at what time. Hey, Bob, I know you were in the courtroom today throughout the trial. What was some of the reactions like in the court as we saw this? A lot of very grisly scene that we're seeing here.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, it was broadcast up on the monitors for those of us in the gallery to see. So I was looking at what the jury was looking at, but also looking at them to see their reaction. And they were all very studious and stoic as they've been throughout this trial. They didn't seem to be flinching in any way or disgusted by what they were seeing. And it is gruesome stuff. You know, the blood on the carpeting next to the bed, bloody knife, the clothes that were there. At one point, they showed what were Christine Banfield's pajama pants that were down on the floor where she and Joseph Ryan were murdered. And so it was unsettling, not pleasant to see. And these are people who came to the courthouse on Monday thinking they might be seated in a jury or on a jury, but probably had no idea it was going to be for a gruesome murder case. And yet they seemed to handle it pretty well from my vantage point, watching them looking at the evidence. They seem to be okay, at least, again, from my understanding.
I think some of the blood splatter analysis is one of the most interesting parts of the case today. This morning we heard one of the people testifying, one of the police officers involved, that when they saw the all pair's socks and shoes, they couldn't figure out how some of the blood got on some of the socks at the angle that it did. They actually wound up taking the shoe apart to find out more about this because they saw that there weren't blood splatters on the outside of the shoe leading into it. And it was one of those things where you heard police officers saying something's not quite right here. I believe he described it as a puzzle that didn't add up. These are all pieces that led possibly to police, looking into this as more than just a home invasion situation.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Slade. I was going to say that at one point the detective Terry Leach, a Fairfax County Police crime scene detective, was saying that he thought that perhaps Joe Ryan, the man who was shot and killed in the Banfield home that morning, looked like his blue jeans had been played with, even though he went there for this kind of sexual role-playing thing, not knowing he was apparently being set up by somebody, whether it was the au pair or Brendan Banfield himself. So that was interesting, too. So it's at least kind of presenting to the jury a little bit that something about this crime scene didn't seem right, and that maybe things happened perhaps after the killings. Because, the feet, Brendan's sneakers had blood on the top. Juliana's didn't, and yet she says she was the one to shoot Joe Ryan the second time. But I'll tell you the thing that really got my attention, I don't know if it did yours, Vernon, was the prosecution witness, who was a state forensic scientist, saying that there was no DNA, blood or fingerprints or anything from Brendan Banfield on the knife that was used to kill Christine. And the prosecution's theory coming from the au pair is that he, Brendan, stabbed his wife to death. But apparently, unless I missed something, there was no DNA from him on that knife. And again, the witness testifying to this before the jury was a prosecution witness.
That was a big part of the case. You're right that we were talking about the knife, who was handling it, whose DNA is on there. We actually heard from one of the witness experts here testifying that they're unable to say whose fingerprints were even on the knife. Some of it may have been kicked around. Let's take a listen to what they're saying about the fingerprints.
With regard to Christine Banfield and Juliana Perez Magalhaes, what did you conclude?
That the single latent print in this case that I looked at for this was not from either of those hands.
And with regard to Joseph Ryan and Brendan Banfield, what did you conclude?
It was inconclusive to a single finger from each of those people.
Yeah, so you're seeing there, that's them saying they cannot conclusively say that either the husband or the person involved in this, Joe Ryan, was holding this knife.
Yeah, the knife was damaged and smudged. And I also want to mention here about the trial as well. The judge said this, that they are far ahead of schedule. So it might just wrap up next week. Could we expect that?
Yeah, Bob, that was something they were talking about at the very end of the case today, that this is moving much faster than they thought. I believe they have 2 witnesses left. Witnesses could wrap up by the end of Tuesday when they resume in court. I mean, is this moving faster than we thought from the outset?
I think so. I mean, they said this could be a 4-week trial, and when they were picking the jury on Monday, Judge Penny Ascarati was saying this thing should go through February 6th. And this is the witness list for the prosecution, and it's several pages long. But it's interesting. I mean, there are probably 20 names of police, Fairfax County police officers, detectives, but they've called maybe 6. So, and then here's the defense list, which is fairly lengthy, a number of pages, including, and also on the state's list is Teresa Banfield, Brendan Banfield's mother, who Juliana has testified, the au pair has testified, helped pay her legal defense between the time she was arrested and the time she accepted the Commonwealth's plea deal. So there are a lot of people on the list. That doesn't mean they're all going to get called. And so if the prosecution is saying we have 2 more witnesses, they're probably skipping 2/3 of the names on the list that was submitted to the judge before the trial began. So there's a good chance, because there's no court on Friday, any of the Fridays, if this were to go 4 weeks, the judge said there'll be no court on Friday, so none tomorrow. There is no court on Monday because of the MLK holiday. So when they resume Tuesday, 2 more witnesses who might not be long, could the defense say, hey, you didn't prove your case, we're not even going to put on a defense at all? Or might they start adding some of the people on their list to testify on the witness stand? We just don't know, but I would think this 4-week trial looks like it could be over in 2 weeks. That's to be seen for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll be finding out more on Tuesday when we come back with that. Hey, thank you so much, Bob, for being there and covering this and coming on to talk about it.
You bet. And it's so cold out here, we decided to use our Fox 5 mobile newsroom for this version of the podcast tonight.
Yes, for Bob's health, we are happy he is inside, not out there. Everybody stay warm, and we're going to be back next week with this podcast. Yeah. I'm really glad we're doing this, because it really gives that behind-the-scenes, in-depth look to the story that everybody's been following here. But again, thank you so much for listening and watching us, and we're going to be back Tuesday with more on the Banfield trial. Take care.